They thought we were prey. They forgot predators wear many masks. The stars disappeared over Jakarta. At first, it was written off as a rare eclipse, some freak orbital alignment. Civilians gathered on rooftops, phones in hand, curiosity outweighing concern. Then the black shapes moved. They weren't natural, they were deliberate, and they were descending. Aboard Korgothi, Warlord Drezen's flagship, the Vrax Eternal, the Earth was a marble floating helplessly in the void. He stood on the bridge, arms behind his back, watching the soft blues and greens of the planet rotate below. He'd conquered 17 worlds in as many years, but this one looked especially fragile. He smirked. Primitive electromagnetic broadcasts. No planetary shield net. Nuclear fission weapons still in service. The tactical AI chirped. Fractured species. No central government. Estimated resistance time, 36 hours. Drezen turned to his second in command. Begin atmospheric breach. Give them a warning volley. Nothing fatal yet. Let them see who rules the stars. In the cities below, people screamed. Plasma trails etched the skies as thousands of Korgothi atmospheric and trade drones broke through the stratosphere. Some hovering, others crashing into oceans with titanic splashes. Internet feeds went dark. Global news spiraled into chaos. World leaders called emergency summits, only to find their encrypted lines jammed. Then something changed. In an unassuming corner of Colorado, beneath the Rocky Mountains, a bunker older than most nations flickered to life. Its name, Unified Contingency Command, or UCC, officially decommissioned. In truth, the place had never slept. Inside, cold lights clicked on above rows of screens. Generals, diplomats, hackers, and theoretical physicists all stood shoulder to shoulder around a central table. A woman in a dark gray uniform, General Leah Rourke, head of Earth Defense Directive, pressed her hand to a biometric scanner. The panel lit green. Activate Protocol 0, she said. Confirmed, replied the AI. Unified response engaged. From the Arctic to Antarctica, bunkers opened. Undersea submarines surfaced like steel leviathans. Deep space telescopes turned into targeting arrays. Earth's defenses, long hidden under a mask of disunity and dysfunction, came online in SYNCHRONY. And on the Vrax Eternal, systems began to glitch. Admiral, we are receiving feedback interference from Earth, hissed the AI. Our orbital comms relay has been hijacked. They're sending a signal, a message. The bridge filled with static. Then a human voice cut through, calm, controlled, terrifying. To the Korgothi Dominion, your presence in Terran orbit is a hostile act. You have 10 minutes to withdraw before we respond. This is not a bluff. This is not fear. This is clarity. Drezen sneered. Bluster, send down the fireships. He never got the chance. From behind the moon's shadow, Earth's reply emerged. 10 orbital weapons platforms, cloaked in radar-scattering composites, activated in perfect unison. Each launched a cascade of kinetic rods, pure tungsten, accelerated to hypersonic velocities, slamming into Korgothi landing ships before they even hit atmosphere. The sky over Tokyo lit up like noon. In Brazil, Korgothi dropships entered a zone only to be greeted by swarms of AI-guided drones that sliced through their hulls like paper. Satellites, long thought defunct, began redirecting, microwave beams burning out. Korgothi sensors mid-flight. They had invaded Earth expecting chaos. What they found was a trap. Above the Pacific, the clouds ignited. One of the Korgothi command bargaster kilometers of armor-plated terror was cleaved in half mid-descent. No warning, no lock-on, just impact. The weapon had no warhead, no engine, just a 20-foot rod of tungsten alloy dropped from low orbit. Kinetic kill, instant annihilation. On the Vrax Eternal, chaos erupted. They've crippled the scourge of Vrax's 30,000 troops gone. How we disabled their orbital defenses. No, Admiral, they never showed us their real ones. Drezen stared at the battlefield map. Earth wasn't fighting like a fractured species. It was coordinated, precise, lethal. Like every move had been simulated 1,000 times because it had aboard UCC command. General Leah Rourke stood in silence as feeds from every continent streamed across the wall of screens. In Nigeria, platforms hidden in cargo ships fired synchronized salvos, blasting Korgothi skimmers out of the sky like clay pigeons. In the Canadian wilderness, what the Dominion thought were refugee camps suddenly unfolded into hardened defense grids, unleashing counterfire that lit the skies. In orbit, exosuited human commandos boarded a Korgothi cruiser that had drifted too low. The footage, dark soundless, showed them slicing through bulkheads and gunning down Korgothi warriors twice their size. No screaming, No talking. Just methodical, inhuman efficiency. Command, said the Comstech. We've decrypted more of their internal chatter. Let's hear it. A hiss of alien language played, followed by a mechanical translation. They're not fighting like prey. They're fighting like us. No, they're fighting like they planned for us. Rourke narrowed her eyes. Not like we did. 5 years earlier, a meteor had crashed into the Gobi Desert. It wasn't a rock. It was a drone alien, ancient, but very much alive. The world governance recovered it in secret, and when they cracked it open, they saw the future. The Dominion was coming. The world's wars didn't stop. They shifted into shadows. Old rivals pretended to bicker. Treaties publicly failed. Military shrank on paper. But below the surface, Earth united. They had one enemy now. The rest was misdirection. Back in orbit, the Korgothi regrouped. 5 warships moved to crush a U.S. space station broadcasting TOTUS signals as they charged their primary weapons boom. Flash of light, then silence. From behind Earth's limb, an object emerged, a sleek black triangle, matte as obsidian, bristling with weapon ports. Not a satellite, not a shuttle. A warship Earth made Project Hades, the first Terran deep-orbit dreadnought, fully AI integrated, powered by fusion, armored with salvaged media alloys, and it hadn't come to negotiate. They built that, Dresden hissed. It's firing again. Another flash. A Korgothi destroyer cracked open like an egg, its core reactor spilling ionized plasma across the void. On the moon's far side, another surprise awaited. A Korgothi stealth drop team landed, expecting a soft recon point. What they got was a lunar mining base turned fortress. Auto turrets, mines, human soldiers in pressure suits with shoulder-mounted rail cannons. The battle was over in minutes. One Korgothi survivor, bleeding, gasping, was captured and dragged. Into a reinforced bunker he stared at the human colonel, wheezing in disbelief. You planned all this, for us. The colonel lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, and replied, no, we planned for worse. You're just early. Above the Pacific, the clouds ignited. One of the Korgothi command bargster kilometers of armor-plated terror was cleaved in half mid-descent. No warning, no lock-on, just impact. The weapon had no warhead, no engine, just a 20-foot rod of tungsten alloy dropped from low orbit. Kinetic kill, instant annihilation. On the Vrax Eternal, chaos erupted. They've crippled the scourge of Raxus. 30,000 troops gone. How we disabled their orbital defenses. No, Admiral, they never showed us their real ones. Dresden stared at the battlefield map. Earth wasn't fighting like a fractured species. It was coordinated, precise, lethal. Like every move had been simulated 1,000 times because it had aboard UCC command. General Leo Rourke stood in silence as feeds from every continent streamed across the wall of screens. In Nigeria, platforms hidden in cargo ships fired synchronized salvos, blasting Korgothi skimmers out of the sky like clay pigeons. In the Canadian wilderness, what the Dominion thought were refugee camps suddenly unfolded into hardened defense grids, unleashing counterfire that lit the skies. In orbit, exosuited human commandos boarded a Korgothi cruiser that had drifted too low. The footage, dark soundless, showed them slicing through bulkheads and gunning down Korgothi warriors twice their size. No screaming, no talking. Just methodical, inhuman efficiency. Command, said the Comstech. We've decrypted more of their internal chatter. Let's hear it. A hiss of alien language played, followed by a mechanical translation. They're not fighting like prey. They're fighting like us. No, they're fighting like they planned for us. Rourke narrowed her eyes. Not like we did. 5 years earlier, a meteor had crashed into the Gobi Desert. It wasn't a rock. It was a drone alien, ancient, but very much alive. The world governance recovered it in secret, and when they cracked it open, they saw the future. The Dominion was coming. The world's wars didn't stop. They shifted into shadows. Old rivals pretended to bicker. Treaties publicly failed. Military shrank on paper. But below the surface, Earth united. They had one enemy now. The rest was misdirection. Back in orbit, the Korgothi regrouped. 5 warships moved to crush a U.S. space station broadcasting TOTUS signals as they charged their primary weapons boom. Flash of light, then silence. From behind Earth's limb, an object emerged, a sleek black triangle, matte as obsidian, bristling with weapon ports. Not a satellite, not a shuttle. A warship Earth made Project Hades, the first Terran deep-orbit dreadnought, fully AI integrated, powered by fusion, armored with salvaged media alloys, and it hadn't come to negotiate. They built that, Dresden hissed. It's firing again. Another flash. A Korgothi destroyer cracked open like an egg, its core reactor spilling ionized plasma across the void. On the moon's far side, another surprise awaited. A Korgothi stealth drop team landed, expecting a soft recon point. What they got was a lunar mining base turned fortress. Auto turrets, mines, human soldiers in pressure suits with shoulder-mounted rail cannons. The battle was over in minutes. One Korgothi survivor, bleeding, gasping, was captured and dragged into a reinforced bunker. He stared at the human colonel, wheezing in disbelief. You planned all this for us?" The colonel lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly, and replied, "No, we planned for worse. You're just early." The Korgothi didn't learn. Even after Earth turned their fleet into burning wreckage, they pressed forward. Perhaps it was pride, perhaps desperation. Maybe they believed the outer colonies would be softer targets. They chose Mars, they thought. They'd catch us unprepared. What they found was hell with red skies. The drop began at midnight Mars Standard Time. For Dominion carriers screamed into the upper atmosphere, kicking up cyclones of dust as they deployed nearly 50,000 troops in low orbit. The skies above the Valles Marinaris rift glowed with engine burn and kinetic flare. Commander Isol of the 32nd Shock Regiment stood on the observation deck of his troop barge, his voice venomous. "Let them fear our shadow. This rock will be ours by nightfall." The invasion began. The troops landed, and then the planet swallowed them whole. First, the dust shifted. What appeared to be uneven terrain rose and walked. Drones, thousands of them camouflaged in Martian dust. They moved in silence, climbing troop transports like ants on a carcass. One Dominion gunship tried to gain altitude. It didn't. A magnetic rail spike fired from beneath the soil pierced its belly and detonated its reactor. The blast lit up the canyons like a second sun. Surface defenses. Negative, Commander. The attacks are coming from inside the crust. They tunneled under the battlefield. Deep below the Valles Marinaris, a war room glowed red from emergency lights. Mars population had long been considered remote pioneers, not soldiers. That assumption was fatal. The Martian colonies had been preparing for this since the first whisper of alien life. Their leader, Colonel Ava Riker, wore scorched armor and eyes that hadn't slept in 2 days. She spoke calmly into her cums. "Operation Iron Maw is green. Collapse the western tunnels." Above her, the ground heaved down. Entire battalions of Korgothi vanished into engineered sinkholes, buried alive. Then came the counterstrike. Martian examiners in hardened armor-wielding fusion cutters, not rifles, erupted from behind rock formations and cut through Dominion patrols like butchers in silence. They didn't just fight back, they hunted. From orbit, the Dominion watched in horror. The Korgothi fleet attempted to coordinate a retreat, but their orbital relays fizzled. Jammed. Human signals poured through their encrypted channels. "You are in violation of interplanetary sovereignty protocols. Retreat immediately or face terminal reprisal. This is your only warning. You are not alone in this sky." A dark silhouette emerging from Mars' Terminator line. A ship, Tyrone, no visible engines. Its name burned on its hull. TSV Horizon, WRITH. The Wraith had been a myth, whispers of a stealth warship humanity launched without telling Earth. Mars built it in secret, using Korgothi wreckage recovered during the early Blacksite years. Now, it rose in silence and opened fire. One by one, the Dominion ships vanished from orbit, not with explosions. With precise surgical disintegration. The Wraith didn't destroy them, it deleted them. Atop a crater ridge, Colonel Riker watched the last Dominion lander disintegrate. Her face remained expressionless. One of her lieutenants approached. "We did it." "No," she replied. "We warned them." Back on Earth, General Rourke stood before a room of advisors and allied leaders. "They hit Mars thinking it was our flank. She said it was our fist. And we're just getting started." In the void between stars, Dominion reinforcements arrived, massive, brutal, and fully armed. The Vector Convergence fleet, 50 ships, 6 dread carriers, and 3 psychic command nexuses. It was the kind of force that turned planets into myths. Admiral Threxon stood atop his bridge platform, 4 arms folded, triple pupils focused forward. "Deploy P.S. flood their minds, drown their will." His confidence was legendary, until the P.S. Sisgrimers deployed, and fell silent. The P.S. Sitranters CONVULSED, instead of human terror, they encountered a storm, millions of psychic signals pulsing across Earth's noosphere. Not chaos, not fear, noise intense, patterned, and unreadable. Earth had saturated its global networks with synthetic mental feedback. Every major broadcast station pumped encoded neural static, engineered to jam alien telepathy. Scrambling our screamers. No one, Aide gasped. They're weaponizing their madness. From orbit, the Dominion felt it. Laughter, rage, music, poetry, screams all, looped in an incomprehensible web of human thought. And behind it, something worse, a signal embedded in chaos. You're not the first to try and read our minds. They failed, too. And now they're part of the noise. On Earth, near the ruins of old Shanghai, Dominion drop forces advanced cautiously through ruined skyscrapers that they expected resistance. They found abandonment. No soldiers, no drones, just scorched earth and collapsing walls. Until one of the Dominion scouts stepped on something soft. Click, he exploded. Not a mine, a trap-hack biosensor triggered, encoded to only detonate when non-human weight was applied. Every alley, stairwell, and floor tile was rigged. They hadn't walked into a battlefield, they had walked into a living booby trap, and then came the ghosts. Shadowy figures moved through the smoke. Not soldiers, not machines, actors, thousands of volunteers from Earth's displaced cities, dressed in Dominion armor, acting out false routines, mimicking alien tactics to confuse aerial recon. Even Dominion heat scanners couldn't tell what was real because everything was a lie. Meanwhile, in orbit, Dominion battlecruisers deployed seismic bombers to wipe out human strongholds beneath the Himalayas. But when they breached the clouds, the mountains weren't there. They'd been digitally cloaked by orbital holograms and climate engineering. And when the Dominion ships dove low enough to bomb the wrong peaks, Earth's real batteries opened fire from the ridges behind them. Explosions ripped through the sky, shattering Dominion cruisers in mid-flight from the command uplink. A single Earth message played. You brought a war. We brought 1,000 traps and 100 lies. This isn't war. This is theater. And we're the playwrights. Elsewhere, in a captured Dominion crawler, Earth's Black Ops AI designate, Variant 9 hijacked an entire Korgothi platoon's neural uplink. The aliens screamed as their HUDs turned against them, displaying false enemies and friendly fire markers. They turned on each other. They begged for deactivation. The AI offered none. In the dark between Neptune and Sol, the Dominion finally played their last, most terrible card. Project Veilborn, a killer not of matter but of mind. Aboard the psychic dreadnought Nirax Vela, 10,000 Dominion locked their tendrils into the Mindspine array. Each was bound by ritual. Their bodies long since reduced to husks, kept alive only to scream into the void. Their goal wasn't destruction, it was submission to crack humanity, not with bombs, but with despair. To drown Earth in hopelessness. On Earth, it began like a storm with no sky. Every screen turned black. Every satellite went silent. People dropped to their knees, clutching their heads as unseen pressure filled their skulls. A whispering, endless and low, began in millions of ears, not in any language, just pain. In Australia, entire wildlife, herds stampeded into the sea. In New York, children began screaming in sync. In Nairobi, men wept without knowing why. It's not a weapon, whispered a neuroscientist at Geneva. It's a frequency. A suicide note beamed from orbit into the human soul, and yet Earth did not fall. Because in the depths of that storm, a new sound began to rise. It started in Rio, then in Berlin, then Tokyo. Not military transmissions, not orders, voices, human ones, telling stories, singing lullabies, reading books, aloud whispering poems, shouting jokes through the static. I'm still here. You are not alone. Hold on. Keep breathing. Don't let go. Billions joined in. Parents called children. Strangers sent voice memos to random numbers. Pilots linked into public homes. And slowly, the frequency of fear began to shift. Inside Earth's orbital defense core, Admiral Rourke stared at the chaos. Can we jam the frequency? No, it's layered, interwoven. Nothing can cut through it directly. Then don't cut through it, Rourke growled. Flood it, and Earth did. With love, with rage, with every voice that refused to be silenced. From the Himalayas to Havana, billions of humans screamed their defiance back into the sky. I don't know who you are out there, a kid yelled into a makeshift antenna in Kenya, but if you're listening, you picked the wrong species. On the Nirax Vela, chaos erupted. The positrontresses convulsed. Their song fractured. The pain feedback loop collapsed and began reversing. The Dominion had made one fatal mistake. They built a weapon that worked by entering human minds. But our minds are not safe places. They connected and touched our grief, our vengeance, our love for each other, more vicious, more violent than any Dominion algorithm could process. They're inside us now, whispered one technician as her skull began to split. We tried to break them. They're burning us alive from the inside. That Nirax Vela exploded from within, not by missile, by feedback. Billions of Earth voices tore it apart with nothing but willpower made audible. The Veilborn was gone. Its remnants spiraled into Neptune's gravity, well-forgotten debris of a weapon too arrogant to believe in the strength of human unity. Later that night, across every human channel, a single message looped in simple text. We heard each other. We held on. We are still here. And beneath it, one last line written in over 200 languages. You can silence our weapons, but not our voices. Dominion sector of Rax Delta world untouched by war. Green sky, floating citadels, ancient shrines to conquest. The people here had never seen a battlefield. Their history told stories of distant enemies, the humans as barbarians, trapped to their little blue rock, weak, fragile, disorganized, until the sky above Rax Delta split in half, and Earth came through. They saw the Terran fleet first, not massive, not bloated with ships, just 30 vessels, sleek, angular, quiet. The Dominion defense grid scrambled. Interceptors, activating shield platforms, preparing for a conventional battle. They never saw the ships stop. And then vanish. Cloaking field. No, they're gone from all sensors. That's impossible. It wasn't. Human stealth vessels had already landed on the capital plateau. At the power spires. In the Emperor's shadowed court. On the surface, alarms screamed too late. The first explosion wasn't a missile, it was a voice, broadcast across Dominion channels in perfect translation. You brought war to our homes. You burned our cities. You ripped children from their sleep. We're here to return your kindness. This isn't an invasion. This is an answer. Strike teams Omega and Revenant deployed across Rax Delta. They didn't wear insignias. Their faces were masked. Their armor black. They moved like ghosts, slipping past patrols and defense drones as if they'd rehearsed this exact war for years. They had because Earth had studied the Dominion. Every ship, every protocol, every blind spot, and now, they turned those systems against their makers. In the Dominion High Sanctum, panic broke through centuries of arrogance. High Commander Krellick watched a live feed of the central AI tower collapsing in flames. His hands trembled. Where is the enemy fleet? Where is our orbital command? No answer, because orbital command had been silenced 10 minutes ago. The Terran team never fired a shot. They simply slipped in, shut off the power cores, and left the officers tied to their own landing gear. Humiliation before annihilation, but this wasn't genocide. This was surgical, strategic, precise. The Terrans didn't bomb cities. They targeted only the infrastructure of war, power conduits, transport spires, memory towers, military DNA archives. By dawn, half of the Dominion's war infrastructure on Rax Delta was gone, and then the messages began. Broadcast on Dominion frequencies. This is Earth Command. We will not erase you. We will not be what you are, but we will remove your ability to ever hurt anyone again. You want surrender? Start with your pride. Deep underground, Strike Team Revenant reached a Dominion genetic vault, the place where they engineered the Psych Warriors, the telepathic screamers, the nightmare fuel of Dominion conquest. Captain Layla Voss stepped into the chamber. Her helmet hissed open. She looked at the rows of hybrid embryos growing in blue gel and simply said, "We end this here." With a swipe of her palm, every chamber was frozen, not destroyed, preserved, for evidence, for trials, for justice. Galactic Year 7429, just 3 cycles after the last Terran strike. The galaxy held its breath. The Dominion hadn't fallen. It had withered quietly, swiftly, and without ceremony. Worlds that once trembled beneath its boots now stood free. Psychic chokehold had snapped. The fleets that darkened systems had turned to scrap. But the galaxy wasn't celebrating, it was watching. Earth, because they feared what came next. Would humanity rise as liberators or emperors? From the frozen moons of Tyrannel to the fungal forests of Estromor, whispers spread. The Terrans are building something. No conquests, no colonies, but embassies, they call it. The Accord. On the neutral trade moon Vocalis, every surviving power sent a representative to a summit, a place that hadn't seen peace since before most species developed SPACEFLIGHT. The Dominion's last envoy arrived late, limping, without guards, no fanfare. The humans came without armor, no ships hovered in orbit, only a single Terran speaker stood at the center podium, beneath the galactic eye. She wore no medals, no weapons. Just a single dog tag around her neck. Her name was Commander Alira Vance, and her voice was calm, cold, calculated. "We didn't ask for this war," she said. But you forced us to become what you feared. We didn't want to teach you what happens when you come for humanity. But now that we have listened well, the room fell deathly silent. You looked at us and saw primitives. You saw war, fire, emotion. You thought that made us weak. What? You didn't understand what you still don't is that emotion is not weakness, it's fuel. She stepped forward, looked straight at the Dominion envoy. You stole children from our colonies. You erased cities. You twisted our skies into weapons. And we came back from it not as monsters, not as tyrants. We came back as a promise. She turned to the crowd. The human accord will protect any world that asks. No conquest. Domination, just this oath. No one invades another species ever again, and if they try they answer to us. Shock rippled through the assembly. No one had expected mercy, let alone structure. A race once considered bottom-tier primitives had just established a galactic peace framework backed by the most unpredictable military force in known space. They didn't demand territory. They didn't ask for tribute, simply offered an open hand, and a clenched fist behind it, for those who dared repeat the Dominion's mistake. Meanwhile, on Earth, the last of the warships returned home. No parades, no speeches, only reunions. A child in Lagos hugged her brother back from the stars. A man in Toronto walked again after the orbital blast and a new cybernetic leg grown from Dominion tech. A school in Kazakhstan reopened, built from the scrap of a crashed alien crawler. The scars would never vanish, but neither would the strength that came with them. On a distant world scarred by centuries of Dominion rule, a small alien girl watched as the first human relief ship landed. She asked her mother, trembling, "Are they here to hurt us?" Her mother knelt and whispered, "No, my star. They're the ones who made the monsters leave." In a museum orbiting Mars, etched in steel beneath the shattered hull of the Nearax Vela, are the words, "To those who came for us, we survived, we adapted, we stood back up, and now we watch the stars."